For generations, the worst among us have contrived to tear our social and political fabric apart to benefit the few over the many. Their intent and mission have been diabolically simple: divide and conquer, and they have been wildly successful. Hi, I'm Michael James Ott, veteran, retired engineer and businessman, and now ambassador and facilitator for the solution to this madness: citizen statesmanship. The vast majority of people from all corners of the globe are just like you and me, extraordinary, so-called ordinary people. Join us in our quest to recreate the political landscape, eliminating the tribal hostilities and warfare incited for centuries by the label and blame mantra of our traditional leaders. Now is the time to end the atrocities of god-awful leadership, launching a final and lasting divorce from tyranny. All driven by everyday citizens, driven by you and me. Take our hands, walk with us to a far brighter tomorrow, free of hate, fear, and injustice. There's a saying in my country that I am sure is paralleled in many others. You can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. When it comes to truly fair, effective, efficient governance of, by, and for the people, citizen statesmanship is the water. Cool, pure, refreshing, and thirst-quenching. But when will you drink of it? You and I, know the answer to this question. Just how thirsty must you be? How much warfare, pestilence, famine, poverty, misuse, and abuse must you suffer before you finally have had enough? That you are parched and ready to walk through fire to get to and drink from the eternal fount of freedom, equality, and fairness that is citizen statesmanship. It's the Pro and Con Show, brought to you today and every day by Citizen Statesmanship, the cure for what ails us. Welcome to the Pro and Con Show. I am Michael James Ott.
And I'm Billy McLaughlin, and we are your co-hosts for today's show.
It is important to say that this show is for everyone in every corner of the globe, all 8 billion of us, and counting.
And counting.
And we have a great, awesome show for you today. Today's topic, NARSOLES, past and present. So we talk about NARSOLES on these shows all the time, and in a previous show, we defined them and why we coined the term. And so by way of a brief review, NARSOL stands for narcissistic sociopathic a-hole.
Exactly.
Again, narcissistic sociopathic a-hole. And among their bad traits are narcissistic and sociopathic traits, and Ben's got a list there. He's just going to touch on a few of these.
Oh, yeah. So let's talk about the narcissistic traits. We have a sense of self-importance. They are preoccupied with power, beauty, success, arrogant. They lack empathy. A few of their sociopathic traits are manipulating and deceitful, impulsive and irresponsible. They're aggressive and violent. They disregard rules and laws. Superficial charm. They know how to talk to people. And pathological liars. That's the big one that we see every day. I mean, at this point, that's what it takes to be famous.
Right. This is, and again, and most of the show is going to be, because there's like basically 2 categories of NARSOLES. So these people are pretty darn evil people. Right? And the reason why we bring all this up when we talk about their traits is they're not like us.
Not at all.
So Ben and I, when we read this list of these traits of these people, we don't have these.
No.
We don't. we don't, and you, whether you're watching or listening, anywhere around the world, you don't have these traits either. It's, and so there's some of us maybe have one or two of them or something, but the NARSOLES have all of these, and they're truly the evil people. And there's kind of like the petty NARSOLES. These are the people that, are fraudsters and things like that, or bank robbers, or they're drug lords and things like that. Mm-hmm. And then we have the big NARSOLES. We should probably come up with some term for them, but they are the ones that have the massive social impact. Mm-hmm. And those are the ones we're going to talk about mostly today because they are the most famous.
Exactly. They
are the most famous. So we're going to talk about NARSOLES past and present. We're going to focus first on the past ones. So we're going to talk about what we think are some good examples and what they did to make them be so horrific for the rest of us.
Exactly.
Okay. How they made lives miserable, around the globe. And so I used, because why not? It's a tool. Exactly. We talk about artificial intelligence and ChatGPT. So
pros and cons.
Pros and cons. and so one of the benefits of the internet in general is that you can, go find information really quick. Mm-hmm. And we say this many times on the show, and I'll say it again right here now because it comes into my head. Trust but verify, folks out there. So we're talking to you. We're just regular people. We're presenting information that we are pretty darn sure is accurate. Mm-hmm. But don't just trust us. Yeah. Get out there. If something we say, I don't know if that makes sense, or I don't think I trust that. Get out there and do some quick searching. That's the great thing about the internet, is that you can find a lot of stuff.
Exactly.
And then you have to be careful about how you parse it, though. But you can get out there.
Definitely get out there, do your research, then write us and tell us why we're wrong or tell us why you agree.
Exactly.
This is a forum. It's a discussion. We're having a discussion, a conversation, and you guys are welcome to join in.
Absolutely. We would be delighted to hear from you. So anyway, here's I said list the top 20 most consequential humans in recorded history, and in regards to their negative impact, and provide a summary of what you did here. This is the question that I sent to ChatGPT. And it said, well, this is a serious and complex question, and ranking historical figures by negative impact is inherently subjective. And so it gives some criteria here, like scale of death directly caused, long-term structural harm, intentionality, global versus regional consequences, and the duration of the kind of stuff that they did. Mm-hmm. But it did as asked, and it came up with a top 20 list. And so, audience out there, wherever you are, what is your? Just take a moment. We're not going to have the big reveal here on who's number one for just a second. Just take a moment. If pause the video or pause the podcast, but just take a moment. And who do you think the Chat GPT, based on those criteria, came up with as the number one worst NARSOLE in our past? Well, we talked about this show before the show.
Yes, we did.
And you guessed.
I said Genghis Khan.
You guessed Genghis Khan, and the reason was you had friends at work or something.
Yeah, they were saying that he killed so many people that he actually lowered the temperature of the world. So I was like, that has to be a pretty bad guy. If you can change your climate with murder, that's pretty bad. That is pretty bad.
So the thing now, again, and like clear-eyed and trust but verify. Mm-hmm. After the show is over, I'm definitely going to go out and
I'm going to double check on that too. But that was just what came to mind. You're like, who's the worst guy? I'm like,
so I want to read about how they determined that the temperature of the Earth was lowered by.
That would be something interesting to know. And at the time it was late at night, working. It's like, it's just conversation. You just flow.
Yes, of course. And but So, and I assumed that this fellow would be number one when I asked this question, but I didn't know, and it came out to be, certainly most people would guess, or it would be in your top three, Adolf Hitler.
Absolutely.
Adolf Hitler. And so Adolf Hitler led the German people, and he of course initiated the unbelievably horrific Holocaust, and he had, and the problem with the NARSOLES folks is, like we're saying, they're charming and they're pathological liars and stuff, and we, the extraordinary ordinary people, we follow them. Okay, so Hitler, we talked about this in other shows, Ben and I, and it's well-known history, right? The Germans after World War I, because they started that war and lost it, they were under the oppressive thumb of the people that won the war. Mm-hmm. And so they got some of their territory taken away from them, and their economy was really terrible, and a bunch of things had gotten destroyed during World War I, and this was all punishment from the people that won the war, which was the way history was forever. By the way, humans would fight wars, and whoever won, the losers got enslaved, they got beaten, they
just had to pick up the pieces, pretty much.
And so now what's happening in Germany is things are terrible, people are starving, and Hitler walks in there and he starts promising, that everything is going to be great, and he starts working toward that, and he builds up this, basically the whole Third Reich, and at one point he was a member of a political party, and then he used that. It took him a while to get there, but he eventually used that to get the position of prominence. And then once he did, he consolidated power, and of course used all kinds of unethical methodologies, lying.
Yes, definitely lying.
They had all these. I remember, and I'm not a historian, but they definitely had all these like staged things around Germany to convince the people that there was nothing but death and crime in the streets, and only Hitler.
Interesting.
only Hitler could make it better. They staged these things.
He was their leader for law and order, I guess.
He was the leader for
according to him, anyway.
And so I'm gonna, and I apologize to Ben here, but we'll
it's okay.
Jump right in here. But I lived in southern Germany for almost 3 years, and the German people, are fantastic. So I lived there starting in 2000, and the German people are fantastic. And my grandparents, my father's parents, were German immigrants.
Oh, wow.
To this country. And in fact, my father's name, I didn't even realize this until he passed away, but I was given his birth certificate. And his name was William John Ott, as far as I knew. But on his birth certificate, he was Wilhelm Johann Ott.
Wow.
And I had this was like wow. I had no idea. And another quick aside from that, I asked because eventually going to live in Germany and stuff like that, and I talked to my dad before I went over there, and I asked him previously, you don't know any German, you never spoke German, don't. He's like, nope, my parents, they passed when they were quite young. They were like in their 40s and 50s when they died.
Oh, wow.
But my parents were absolutely adamant there was to be no German spoken.
Wow.
And so you're an American, and you should, but okay. This you got to appreciate the times, right? So when they came over here, it was after World War I, and the Germans, of course, had started the war and all this other stuff. So there was,
Yeah, I guess they would want to put distance in between that. That makes sense. It's really interesting still, though.
Yeah. And just to actually absolutely cement the point that this was Hitler and handfuls of people that got around him, because the NARSOLES have a tendency to gather together and support each other. This was Hitler and not the German people. So as I mentioned, back in 2000, my employer sent me to live and work in Germany. Mm-hmm. And right after I got there, one of my German colleagues and I went to dinner. And after dinner was over, he said, well, tell me about what you think about Germany and the United States. And I spent a few minutes talking about the two countries. Pro and con, good and bad, for and against. Mm-hmm. And after I finished speaking, he leaned in across the table and he said, we Germans, we watch your country very, very closely. And then he leaned in a little bit closer, and you could see tears welling in his eyes. And he said, you know what we did to the Jews. You know what we did to the Poles. You know what we did to our own German people who spoke against the war. You know what we did. This place, the United Nations, do you know it? Do you know it? Nodded my head, of course, I know the United Nations. He said, this place cannot be here in Germany, cannot be in France or the United Kingdom or Chile or China or even Canada. There is one place where the world knows that the people can be counted upon to fight for and even die for freedom, equality, and fairness. And we Germans, we watch your country very, very closely. And, as I was living over there, and the Germans have, because they're well aware of Hitler, and we're not going to actually talk about him all that much, because if you've paid any attention to the history of the world, most people know about the atrocities and the war and all of it. Mm. And if you don't, look it up. Go read about it. But the Germans recognized, the modern Germans are wildly aware that this happened. And I will say to them, the World War II and all of it, all the waste, the death, the destruction, the horrors, the atrocities, all of it was because of one narsole named Adolf Hitler. And that is why when I assumed that he would be number one on this list. But the Germans are well aware of this, and so in German society, from a very young age, you are educated repeatedly as you get older and older about what happened. Okay. And this is one of the reasons why this show that we're doing so many of them, and we're talking about this in many different perspectives and different ways of looking at this, because it can happen anywhere. And the Germans are very well aware. So this colleague of mine, again, this was 2000. And I guarantee you that today in 2026, those same colleagues are looking across the Atlantic and wondering what is going on in our country. And the last comment that I want to make about that, parallel to it, is the January 6th riots that occurred. And no question about this, ladies and gentlemen. And again, depending on, because the NARSOLES, depends on what bubble you're in, what algorithms are giving you information and who you're watching on television or whatever. But the January 6th thing was a riot,
Mm-hmm.
and it was incited by a single narsole, and his name is Trump. And, and so again, in fairness to those people, many of them were prosecuted, right? Because of the thing. They did things, they broke things, they hurt people and stuff like that. But the truth is, and it is absolutely true, the vast majority of those people, there was thousands of people there that day, the vast majority of those people were trying to do the right thing. They had been incited to do what they did by misinformation and disinformation. And this is one of the main reasons why we're doing the show, because we know that, and I'll just make a quick plug here for Citizen Statesman. So we talk about the NARSOLES and their traits. Well, we, the good people, the extraordinary, ordinary people, we don't have those traits. We have the opposite traits.
Absolutely.
And so, if we are in office, if we're in the Oval Office, if we're in the Senate, if we're in the House of Representatives, none of this stuff is going to be happening. All of the label and blame, and the fighting and the tribal, warfare and hostilities, it's all driven by people who are trying to basically screw us over.
Exactly.
So some others in the list.
Yeah.
So Hitler's number one, and we're not going to, he's pretty famous. We're not. So number two on the list.
Joseph Stalin.
And this also to me was not that big of a, because we were talking, remember what were the stats about World War II and all that?
Yes. We were talking about Stalin, and shoot, the people that he killed and just the way that he came into power. Promising that people would have a better life only to pull the wool over their eyes. And it's more of the same, but worse.
Yeah, so there's a little tiny blurb here on each one of these. So Stalin ruled the Soviet Union from the mid-20s until 1953. And he had forced collectivization policies that caused widespread famine. And he, including, and I don't recognize this name, but again, I'm not a historian, but Holodomor in Ukraine, interestingly enough, killing millions. So, of course, again, in modern history, we've got the Russians that have invaded Ukraine. And then, of course, they did the Great Purges. So tons and tons, millions of people executed, imprisoned, and just ruled by terror. And the Gulag labor camps and all that. And so here it says estimates of deaths attributable to his rule range from 15 to 20 plus million people.
Man.
So there you go.
And and this last part, unlike wartime destruction alone, much of this suffering occurred during peacetime domestic policy implementation. So that wasn't even during wars. Just peacetime, just killing his own people. That's, wow.
Yeah, they, another aside here briefly. So going back to World War II, I've heard plenty of arguments. We dropped atomic bombs on Japan, and they surrendered not too many weeks after that. But I've heard tons of people arguing that it was not actually the atomic bombs that caused Japan to, and now I want to look into this some more, to surrender. It was the fact that the Russians had decided that they were going to turn their attention on Japan.
Wow.
And the Japanese and the Russians and the Chinese, all three of them have had ongoing stuff for centuries, right? And all kinds of horrible stuff, right? And the Japanese are like, no, we're gonna. That's the theory is it wasn't the atomic bombs. It was actually the fact
that would be something interesting to look into, because I mean, man, like I've seen videos of like the aftermath and witness accounts and stuff from the atomic bombs, and it's like for that time, like we don't even have cartoons that are showing this level of destruction, and for that to be real life, I mean, nothing to be left of people but shadows. That's unthinkable. Like in that time, that's almost like alien technology, and they were still not going to give up. Like, I mean, that's hard. Really fighting for what they believe in.
Yeah.
Because I mean, if I'm a soldier, I'm gonna be honest. That's enough to make me say nope, nope. Like there was a bunch of people on this street, and now they're gone. Like there's nothing. Oh no.
and again, just a very brief aside. It's not the Japanese people, and it was not the German people, because now and so shortly after World War II, both the Japanese people and the German people became some of the closest, and still to this day,
yes,
are some of the best, fairest, acting players on the world stage, and have been, very robust advocates and allies for goodness, right? For fair, for peace, for and on and on and on. And again, if it was the people, that wouldn't be true.
Exactly.
If it was the people, it wouldn't be true.
Exactly.
So then number 3 is Mao Zedong and China. And of course, this is another famous one. The Great Leap Forward. So they had a bunch of forced collectivization and just totally mismanaged the thing. And the whole thing about communism, and people talk about communism and how it's been a failure. Well, it has been a failure, but a lot of it is actually attributed. It was just a mask. It was just a thing for autocratic rule. It was a way to try to convince the average people, we're going to do this thing called communism. And everybody, we're going to take care of everybody and everything's going to be good and all that because we're going to share everything. We're going to share the wealth.
I mean, on paper, it sounds like it would be good. I mean,
so that's
I remember being in school and I was like, well, what's wrong with that?
And, the theory was, hey, we're going to spread the wealth here and we're going to take care of everybody. And that's how they, again, lying, conniving, charming.
Exactly.
And so this is how they manipulated people. So the communist regimes made these promises because that is the definition of communism. And then, of course, the moment that these places were put in power, it's Hitler all over again, consolidate the power, Stalin all over again, consolidate the power, brutalize the public. Mao, same thing.
Exactly.
Consolidate the power, brutalize the public.
Because it's not about longevity, it's not about sustainability or, the long-term health and wellness of your people. It's about what you want right now. I want power. While I'm here, I want power.
So it says here that the leap forward triggered the deadliest famine in human history, with somewhere between 30 and 45 million deaths because of the famine. In one of the speeches that I give on a regular basis, I talk about, these NARSOLES. It's the war, the famine, the poverty. This is all driven. The misuse and abuse. It's all driven by them.
Yes.
Now they try to convince us, just like Hitler, pointed at the Jews and said it was the Jews' fault. And again, manipulating and trying to point fingers at someone else other than himself.
Label and blame.
Label and blame. And this has been going on for centuries. There's nothing new here, folks, other than we're encouraging everyone to wake up, smell the coffee, and recognize that this goes on to this very day, and it's getting worse and worse here and abroad.
Absolutely.
And it's time to end the atrocities of God-awful leadership.
Exactly.
Yeah,
because history is doomed to repeat itself. And
we need to initiate a final and lasting divorce from tyranny. So next on the list, who's on next on the list there, Ben?
We have Pol Pot.
Pol Pot. So this is actually within my lifetime now. This is back in the 60s. There's a whole Vietnam era, right? And, this is actually into the 70s. Okay, so yes, it's definitely my era. So I was a teenager.
He attempted to create an agrarian communist utopia. Approximately 1.5 to 2 million people, around a quarter of Cambodia's population, died from execution, forced labor, starvation, and disease. The regime targeted intellectuals, minorities, and perceived dissenters. The social fabric of Cambodia was shattered in just 4 years. Wow.
Yeah, so one of my former work colleagues is from Cambodia. And there's I think there's a movie called The Killing Fields.
I have heard of that movie.
And actually, my friend, he, escaped Cambodia.
Wow.
Through the killing fields.
Wow.
And so he was a teenager when he arrived. I don't remember his exact age. I think he was like 15 or 16 or something, but I could be off by a year or two. But when he arrived here in the United States, and he was given, oh God, now I'm having a senior moment.
Asylum?
Asylum, that's the word. Thank you. He was given asylum, and then he tells the stories about how people here in this country, recognized what had been happening to him, and we were talking about the extraordinary, ordinary people in other shows, and these people, helped him, gave him the hand up, not a handout, but the hand up, to progress, to go get education, to, and step by step, and, then get a good job and stuff. And he's been working here for a long time. And of course, as, paying taxes and all that kind of stuff. And so he had always been talking, let's go back to Cambodia. Will you go to Cambodia with me? And I would say, yeah, okay. and so this kind of went on for years. It's like a little private joke between us, because he would say, I think we'll go to Cambodia this year. And then, really? Yeah. And then, no, I don't think so. But then finally, 3 or 4 years ago or something, or 2 or 3 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I've been retired for a while, but he's still working, and a bunch of us went to Cambodia with him.
Wow, that's cool.
We went to Cambodia with him. And the interesting thing is, it'd been years and years since he'd been in Cambodia. So we were like walking around, and there's like the drivers that take you places, it's because it's really cheap. You can, it's like $1 and they'll take you around or whatever. And so I was like, "What, are you going to be able to speak to them?" And he goes, "I don't know." It's been a long time. Well, you know what happened? He started. They would talk, and then as soon as they started talking, he started talking. It just
came right back.
Just came flying back to him, because of course he learned. He was a native Cambodian speaker,
exactly.
Right? So it's in his brain, even though he doesn't use it and hasn't used it for a long time. It's there, and so it just came, pouring out.
Wow.
This next one, and then I think we'll switch to present day folks, because I never actually. And so here's another thing, we Americans have to fess up. We're fairly oblivious to a lot of things. And this fellow, Leopold II, he was the ruler of the Congo, the so-called Congo Free State, and he was Dutch, right? Or Belgium. He was the head of Belgium, I think it was. I looked it up before the show, and now I've forgotten. But anyway, it doesn't matter. It's Northern European, Belgium or Denmark or something like that. It doesn't matter. But the important thing is, so he's this ruler, and he's ruling from afar, but he's, extracting all kinds of wealth out of Africa, out of the Congo region. And he's famous for how brutal they were in doing that.
Oh, man.
And so there was mass killings, mutilations. So I read on the internet, I do remember this, they routinely chopped hands off of people. If they didn't, and this is, why did they chop hands off of people? It wasn't because they stole, like there's, wherever it is,
a lot of, like,
there's certain places around the world, it's like they'll chop your hand off if you steal. It wasn't because of that, it was because they had rubber quotas that they had to meet.
Wow.
And if people didn't meet their rubber quotas, they chopped a hand off. And
That's
of course,
rough. I mean,
tons of famine. And then they say the death toll estimate is from 5 to 10 million. And of course, the exploitation garnered him all kinds of personal, private profit. Gosh. And then there's a bunch of others here, like Tojo and then Lenin and Kim Sung and Saddam Hussein and Genghis Khan. There's on the list here. And then rest in King Leopold III. So it went on for another generation. Benito Mussolini, of course, from World War II. Francisco Franco, that was the Spanish Civil War thing. Pinochet, King Henry VIII, and so on. So these are the NARSOLES, the famous ones, the big ticket NARSOLES, not the little ones.
The ones to be
the famous little ones would be like the famous little ones like Jack the Ripper, I guess. He was a famous.
Yeah.
He would be one of the
Jack the Ripper, El Chapo, like guys like that. I mean, famous mobsters, I guess.
Sure. There you go. Yes.
So
that's famous mobsters. Al Capone.
Yeah. So
and all those kinds of people. They were the small time. And this is the thing that we pointed this out before. We're going to point it out again right here because it's important for you to understand and think about. The small time guys, the drug dealers, the mafia and stuff like that. We make every attempt to try to put them in prison. And they because they avoid prison and they do all this stuff, they live at least for a period of time in lives of luxury, right? They live in palaces and all this other stuff and drink the finest foods and or eat the finest foods and all that.
Exactly.
But eventually, the law catches up to those folks. Now, the big time ones like Mao, like Hitler, like
Stalin,
and Putin,
yes,
and honestly, Trump. They are in opulent offices. And they ride around in fancy cars, and everyone does their beck and call, and they have these massive, massive negative impacts on the rest of us. What the unions used to call the rank and file.
Exactly.
Well, but we're the extraordinary, ordinary people on it. It's terrible. So let's talk a little bit. We mentioned these guys. Let me go run back to Putin here real quick. So we've talked about Russia several times already. Putin, wow, what a terrible person. Same sort of thing, rise up through the ranks in the political system, and then eventually, you get to the head job, and then you consolidate power with the same sort of brutality and stuff like that. Tossing people out windows, poisoning them, sending anybody that opposes them to work camps and on and on and on. And then, and we talk about how these people, and they are, all of them, even in this country, even our, the Republicans and Democrats, by virtue of all of the propaganda and the blame, label and blame stuff that they do, they're not just, they're taking the good parts of our life. They're taking away the joy. They're taking away the feeling of comfort and wellness and stuff like that. And Putin does that. And now, and of course, he's invaded Ukraine, and it's Putin's war. And I guarantee you, just like the Germans, just like the Japanese that we talked about earlier in the show, the Russians, the average Russian is an extraordinary, ordinary person.
Oh, I can believe it.
And one day, and one of our shows is called, To Russia with Love. Guys, if you want to call, if you want to, write us at Free Equal Fare, we will help you. I've even drafted a draft constitution for Russia.
Oh, wow.
So you can do this. You can do it. It's not going to be falling off a log easy, as we say here in this country.
Yeah.
But you for sure can do it. You can do it. You can stand up to the regime, and you can organize, and you can do this. Very much like the American Revolution, we stood against
the British.
And, and yes, there was, horrible things and heartache and killing and all those kinds of things. But, sometimes you just have to do things to get somewhere.
I mean, you're going to have to deal with those things as it is anyway. So what's of the other present guys who pops into your head that you want to say a few words about the worst present people? Definitely Kim Jong-un.
Kim Jong-un?
I was actually watching another YouTube video about, it was actually Korean military defectors that were watching videos of the U.S. military, and their reactions was, priceless.
Really?
Because apparently in their country, they don't get to see anything that the U.S. has modern day.
Oh.
And the way that they explained it, they were just watching, the Marines train. And this guy was supposed to be special forces. His jaw was on the floor. He's like, look at their armor. He was just blown away by the fact they were wearing body armor. He was like, in the Korean military, we don't have that. He said, your body is your armor. He said, you're expected to die for your country. Or it was another woman, and she was a part of their special forces too. And she was like, Kim Jong-un is highly afraid of aircraft carriers. And what they tell them is that, we only have one, and it has to come from all the way around the world. So when they hear about it, they're like, oh, well, it has to leave California and it'll take it a month before it gets here. And she's watching a video of facts about a U.S. aircraft carrier, and they're like, yeah, it's just on the other side of Japan. It can get to North Korea in a day. And she's like, so it was coming from Japan? She was like, the moment that it moves, they're on alert. She said the entire military force is on alert, and you have to sleep in uniform with your boots on. You have to be ready. And I'm like, that's the brainwashing. And and she was like, and the Koreans, they believe it. She was like, they really.
Of course. They don't know any different.
Exactly. And she was like, even there was another guy who was a tank driver or whatever. And they're still looking at, they think that we're still using tanks from World War II.
Oh, yeah.
So that's what they're training to be. They're like, oh, yeah, this is old technology. We're superior. This guy was looking at an M1 Abrams, and he's like, it has what it can do. He's watching them, literally when it jumped a ramp and shot in midair.
Yeah.
He about fell out of his chair. And he was like, they would never show us this. He was like, the propaganda that they tell us about America, he said, if we knew this, he said, we would be afraid. He said, people would throw their guns down and run. He was like, there's no way. He said, there's no way we can beat that. And that was the question that they were asking. And it was like, so in a war with the U.S., how long do you think that Korea will last? He was like, we wouldn't. He said we wouldn't. He said the moment that we see you guys, like once we see this, that's it. He said nobody's going to fight. And like that blew my mind. And I'm like, and this is their leader. Like even when like one of the guys was a part of his personal security detail, same thing. He's like, you're expected to die for your country. You say even Koreans that aren't in the military, you are expected to die for him. Mm-hmm. He is a god. I said, that is amazing.
Yes. Well, again, this was Emperor Hirohito and stuff with Japan. Supposedly he's a god and all this other stuff, right? And the Germans treated Hitler like he was a god. Mm-hmm. And and the I hate to keep going back to Russia all the time, but I watched and heard about this, and it's impossible. It's a war scenario, right? So you don't really know the true what's really going on in a war zone. But what was reported is that the North Koreans had sent some numbers of people to fight for Russia on the Russian side. And what was reported that I saw, now again, everything clear-eyed, take it with a grain of salt, try to investigate or whatever. Don't believe anything, just completely, wholesale. But supposedly, the Koreans that had gone into war, they just got a block. The Ukrainians just annihilated them.
Yes.
That's what I heard.
And that was another thing. The guy was saying that he said a lot of them are actually using Ukrainian war in order to defect because they're like, that's their only chance. He said, and some of them, they are fighting and giving their all because one thing I didn't know, he was like, the Korean military, you have to pay for your meals, but you do not get paid to be in the military. It's considered an honor. That blew my mind. He said in North Korea, women don't want to marry men who are in the military because they know that you're poor. He said, so if your family doesn't send you money and send you food, you have nothing. You're on your own.
Wow.
And that blew my mind too. I'm like, wow. Like,
there is no limit. There really is no limit on what NARSOLES will do to average people. There really isn't. And this is an example, but there's plenty of various religious, so that's basically a religion kind of thing. But there's, and again, look it up if you're too young to remember, but there was this Jim Jones guy who had this cult. Mm-hmm. And it was a few hundred people or whatever, and I don't even remember the specifics of what kind of crazy stuff he convinced them was true. But at one point, the pressure was on him because people were coming down on him because of what he was doing to these people. Mm-hmm. That he's like, well, it's time for all of us to go meet God. And so he handed out poison Kool-Aid, and almost everybody, killed themselves because of this person.
Exactly.
And again, so folks, be clear-eyed. Don't follow us like that. Yes, if Ben or I ever tell you, here's a cup of poison Kool-Aid, don't drink it. Don't drink it.
Never drink it.
We will never do that, but don't ever, don't do that stuff.
No.
Don't fall under the spell. These NARSOLES, they're horrible people. Mm-hmm. Don't fall under the spell.
Exactly.
Don't do it.
And again, folks, this is just a conversation. You're a part of the conversation. We're regular people just like you. And, do your own research and contribute. I mean, this is how we learn. This is how we share ideas and ultimately make the world a better place. And, I mean, education about NARSOLES is definitely paramount now because this is politically the biggest danger that we're facing. I mean, these people come from anywhere. If you don't know how to recognize them, you will fall under that spell. Just like those people did for Jim Jones.
Yeah. And just like the Germans did for Hitler and on and on. Mm-hmm. So with these shows we do, they're targeted to make people think and to think about, open their eyes and ears and think about what is really happening. Mm-hmm. What is really happening to us. So here at the Pro and Con Show, we attest to another fact here, other than what we've said here today already. But you will never see or hear about sponsors or advertising here on the show. We can't prevent these from being inserted into breaks in the programming. If you're watching on YouTube or you're listening on Spotify or something, there might be a commercial ad stuck in the middle of our show, but that's not us. We guarantee you'll never see us take or hear us take money from or be influenced by corporations or individuals of wealth in any way, shape, or form. Ben and I and the rest of us, we don't want your money. We don't want your time. We don't want your adoration. We'd both be very happy if citizen statesmanship is the thing, and we have great people in office and no one knows our names.
Exactly.
No one would be happier.
Definitely would be happy
than us. No one would be happier than us. We do want you to be clear-eyed and really think long and hard about how things have been for you, where they're going. We're technology kinds of people, and we know the trend. The trend is the important thing. So where are things going for you? And think about whether you're ready to really step forward and make a real difference. Okay, so we'd also like to point out that, as we've kind of alluded to already in the show, we're just plain folk. We're volunteers, and we're facilitating a better tomorrow, a tomorrow featuring citizen statesmen in elected offices. And those citizen statesmen, people like us, will be diligently leading us to a tomorrow free of hate, fear, and injustice.
Yes, sir.
So as we said, right into the show, comments or questions or concerns. Our next show is going to be shockingly great. It's called Let's Talk About God.
Interesting.
Come join us for the next show, won't you?
Bye for now.